We started here in Germany, where Parliament has now officially been dissolved, paving the way for early elections in 2025. It follows the collapse of Olaf Scholz's governing coalition last month. German President Frank-Walter Steinmeier announced his decision to move forward with a nationwide vote on February 23rd and highlighted the importance of political stability at a difficult time for the country.
After the recent long party political disputes about whether and how to hold new elections, and now that the election campaign has begun, the time has come for problem solving to become the core business of politics again. This is exactly what people expect now. They expect viable proposals for a good future for our country, which has to assert itself in difficult times. I expect this competition to be conducted with respect and decency.
And for more, I'm joined by DW Chief Political Correspondent Nina Haase. Welcome to the show. Let's talk about what the president said. What else did you get from that speech?
Well, you know, Parliament doesn't get dissolved every day here in Germany. Snap elections don't happen very often, but the president's decision had been expected after the German chancellor lost a vote of confidence in the Parliament just a few weeks ago. And that is a lesson from the Weimar Republic before Hitler rose to power, by the way, to make sure that the Parliament can't simply dissolve itself. So Frank-Walter Steinmeier stressed that the German constitution has tools to ensure political stability in times of transition, as is the case now. He said he'd spoken to all the political groups in Parliament and couldn't see how a functioning alternative government could be formed without calling fresh elections. That led to his decision now. So Germans will go to the polls on the 23rd of February, and the Parliament and the government remain in office until then.
Now, Steinmeier's speech was in large part expected. A lot of Germans knew that fresh elections were probably coming, so it was mostly a formality in that sense. But was there anything that you could read between the lines in what he said?
You know, I found it very remarkable just how concerned Frank-Walter Steinmeier seems to be about the future of democracy in this country. He alleged that democracy is under threat from two sides. He said that he was very concerned about outside interference. And you have to keep in mind, this was a pretty short address. It had been expected just a little more than 6 minutes. But Steinmeier did mention the elections in Romania that had to be called again because of alleged interference from outside. And he explicitly mentioned the X platform, where a week ago, Elon Musk, the owner, came out backing the far-right AfD party. And that was something that truly sent shockwaves across Germany, especially because Elon Musk is the key advisor to President-elect Donald Trump. So that's interference from the outside. But Steinmeier also showed himself very concerned about the many people who seem to have lost faith in the democratic system. He mentioned all those, the younger people who have no belief in the future anymore, the older people who don't feel seen. And he said it was vital to be respectful towards each other and especially to go and take this democratic duty, but also privilege seriously and actually go vote.
Let's have a look back now. For just shy of 3 years, Olaf Scholz, the German chancellor, has had a very tough time wrangling a rare three-party coalition. Now, DW political correspondent Jenny Graham explained what went wrong there.
It was never going to be easy, but few could have predicted just how bad it would get. The traffic light coalition is history, and the stage is set for snap elections. But how did we get here? The government faced challenges from the start. Barely 2 months in, Russia's invasion of Ukraine forced a massive about-turn in German defence policy.
Wir erleben eine Zeitenwende.
We're living through a watershed era, and that means that the world afterwards will no longer be the same as the world before.
Energy policy needed a rethink too, after Germany's reliance on Russia, specifically for cheap gas, was laid bare. Add to the mix an economy disrupted by COVID-19, with the public deeply impacted by inflation and a cost of living crisis. The outlook was bleak. And that's before the cracks began to show in the coalition. It all came to a head when the FDP rebelled over the budget. Late-night crisis talks at the Chancellery led to FDP Finance Minister Christian Lindner getting the sack.
I was forced into this decision in order to prevent damage to our country. We need a government capable of taking action, that has the power to make the right decisions for our country. He has long downplayed the economic concerns of Germans. These days, Olaf Scholz is still calling into question the decisions needed for people to be proud of Germany again.
This breakup had been in the works for quite a while. It later emerged that the FDP had a paper outlining just how they hope to orchestrate their coalition exit. Now the electioneering begins in earnest. Voters' main concerns are the economy and immigration, amid a rise in support for the far right and populist parties. Olaf Scholz will be on the ballot again as Chancellor candidate. Hot on his heels, the man most likely to get his job, the opposition Conservative leader Friedrich Merz. A busy winter of campaigning lies ahead, with just a few weeks for the candidates to make their case.
And still with me is Chief Political Correspondent Nina Haase. So Germany's next election is set for 23rd of February. What are the polls showing at this point? How difficult is it going to be to form a new governing coalition?
Well, we saw in the report that Friedrich Merz, the leader of the Conservative Party, according to the polls, at the moment looks like he will have the first grab at the Chancellor's position. But of course, he needs to find partners. And there the situation is a bit more difficult than in previous years because there are no natural coalitions anymore. There's also no party loyalty by German voters in the sense that you vote for one party that your father has already voted for and your grandmother. So this is something where voters seem to pick and choose more freely. So you also have to look at what's going to happen to the Bundestag itself. It's going to be smaller than the current one. So there'll be very, very tough wrangling about all the positions there. The AfD, which is the far-right party, looks to gain its best result in German elections, in nationwide elections, could come second place. And together with the far-left party, the BSW, that's a new party, we would see two Russia-friendly parties in the Bundestag. But we're very sure that Friedrich Merz, if he comes out on top, he's not going to go with either of these two, which essentially means that all the other more traditional democratic parties will enter a long period of coalition negotiations. So we might not have a new government for a few months, which means that the current one remains in office for quite some time.
DW's Nina Haase, thanks for your insights there.